With the recent return of Perturabo, I called it 5 months ago, I was right. I noticed something really interesting. There is a massive swath of 40k fans who had no idea that Perturabo is actually a demon Primarch. Or if they did know about it, they seem to have no clue as to why he became a demon Primarch in the first place. So in today's video, I want to tackle this seemingly very common lore misconception. Perturabo does hate chaos, but does that mean he cannot use it? Hell, on top of that, the Iron Warriors have been corrupted by the Chaos Gods for 3 real-life decades now. And did you know that Perturabo planned to become the demonic Lord of Iron we see in that awesome new art piece, even before the Horus Heresy ended? By the end of this mini deep dive, you will know everything you need to understand for the return of Perturabo. As per usual, all sources used will be shown in the bottom left hand corner throughout this video, in case you want to check the sources I have used, or just want to learn more about Demon Perturabo before his awesome new miniature hits the community. All that and a whole lot more in today's video. But before we get into the lore, a quick shout out to this video's sponsor. You know what would go well with your new 11th edition Iron Warriors army? An Iron Warrior sigil ring from Starforged, an official Games Workshop partner. If you know anything about me, you know that I love wearing jewelry to show off my interests, in ways that most people forget you can just do. You can just wear a ring with your favorite chapter badge, you can just show off what you like, and it actually sparks really fun conversations. Starforged also has a way better quality than any other merch store I have ever bought from. If you want to level up your 40k experience, grab yours using the link in my description or comment section below and get 8% off your next order. Once again, thank you to Starforged for sponsoring this video. To start out, let's cover the original source in which Perturabo turned into a demon Primarch. It's an old one, but still completely canonical to this day. A couple of years after the Horus Heresy ended and the Iron Warriors had left the siege of Terra, the Lord of Iron, Perturabo, would go on to challenge his brother Rogel Dorn. The traitor Primarch had built what he had called the Eternal Fortress on Sebastus IV. When the Praetorian of Terra heard of it, he declared publicly that he would dig out Perturabo from his hole and drag him to Terra in an iron cage. When the Imperial Fists arrived at Sebastus IV, they found a fortress of 20 square miles of pure killing ground. Every horror of siege warfare imaginable was harnessed here. Soon, the Imperial Fists found themselves trapped. Their fleet had been pushed back by the traitor forces, and so much debris had been kicked up that communication had been challenging. Dorn's attack was utterly relentless and would have broken any other defender, but Perturabo dissected the 7th Legion. Tank by tank, squad by squad, Imperial Fists were forced into traps, ambushed and killed with brutal efficiency. The Imperial Fists were forced from company-sized fighting formations into struggling squad by squad as they besieged the Eternal Fortress. After 6 days of constant slaughter, most Imperial Fists virtually fought alone. The proud defenders of Terra were forced to dig into the mud and use their own fallen brothers as cover. Perturabo remained patient while Dorn rampaged through the trenches, calling out his name and demanding personal combat. Perturabo was content to let Dorn demoralize his own sons by his impotence. After 3 more weeks, captains began requesting Dorn to retreat, but instead, the Primarch ordered another charge or demanded Perturabo to face him. Ultimately, the Imperial Fists were left at the mercy of Perturabo. The vindictive Lord of Iron enjoyed tormenting the Imperial Fists for so long that Rabute Guilliman arrived to save them. The Ultramarines had managed to push back the Iron Warrior fleet so they could begin a full-scale evacuation of the Imperial Fists. Perturabo changed tactics now. He allowed the loyalists to withdraw, but forced them to abandon their dead and wounded. Rogel Dorn was broken, and the Imperial Fist would not be able to deploy for combat for the next 19 years. Perturabo would take the gene seed of the Imperial Fist, which would be sacrificed to the Dark Gods to allow Perturabo to ascend to demonhood. One insult had been avenged, and since then, the Iron Warriors have lived only to settle their accounts with the corpse on the Golden Throne. While breaking Rogel Dorn is very much in character for Perturabo, what has happened to him that made him want to ascend to demonhood? After all, he refused the gifts of Nurgle he was offered and left the Siege of Terra when he recognized that the siege was no longer a battle of Astarte honor, but instead a war of madness. But something, in fact, has changed. The Iron Warriors might have retained their martial structure till the 42nd millennium, but they and their Primarch have been corrupted in body and soul before they even knew it. Let's move on to Perturabo's, and by extension, his legion's relation with Chaos. At first, when the Horus Heresy began, there were only the smallest glimpses of what was to come. For Perturabo, much of the Horus Heresy was spent pulling apart the mightiest bastions the Imperium could put together. Yet when Fulgrim asked the Lord of Iron to join him on a journey to the yet-to-be-named Eye of Terror, Perturabo would be confronted with the first changes. The erratic behavior of the Emperor's children disgusted the Iron Warriors. From partaking in extreme narcotics to enjoying every feeling of death and pain, Fabius Bile even killed an Iron Warrior's apothecary for trying to save the gene seed of a fallen legionary from his legion. Perturabo would grow increasingly frustrated with his brother on every level. Perturabo himself was also cursed with the constant staring from the Eye of Terror. This would lead Perturabo into pursuing knowledge of the Warp and the Eye while he was still a boy on Olympia. He enjoyed uncovering the immaterial mathematics and imperial geometry of Ferenzi, an ancient and heretical mathematician. It is even from this mathematician that Perturabo uncovered the KVA Ferrum, an intellectual exercise of Ferenzi, which led Perturabo to incorporate it into his defensive designs. So even before the Horus Heresy began, Perturabo already had a fascination with the Warp and probably understood more than any of his brothers. But of course, he would not understand nearly anything in comparison to the Emperor or Malcador. While approaching the Eye of Terror, which before this was known as Cygnus X1, Perturabo was so overcome with being so close to it that he renamed it. The name Eye of Terror was given to the star Maelstrom by the Lord of Iron directly, yet what is terrifying is that it became a retroactive change. Eidolon began calling it the Eye of Terror, and the Iron Warrior Vilbron was left confused. Yet without having ever heard the name before, he knew exactly what it was. Yet this is not the most important aspect of Perturabo's journey with Fulgrim. Fulgrim had tricked Perturabo. Using the Maw-Eater Stone, Fulgrim was leeching Perturabo's soul from him, trying to ascend. The Lord of Iron survived, only by the narrowest of margins, yet his soul would be wounded forever. From this point onwards, Perturabo's heart was finally made of stone, and he trusted none of his brothers other than Horus. Later on, during the Horus Heresy, Perturabo had many things to say to those who threw their lot in with Chaos. He hated Fulgrim for what had happened. He saw Angron as no better than a slave. When the two Primarchs fought, Perturabo berated him for his weakness to become the Mad Hound of Khorne. Even during the Siege of Terra, there would be much bickering, and Perturabo's contempt for Chaos was on open display. After the Horus Heresy had ended, Perturabo, of course, became a Demon Primarch as I mentioned before. He would also work together with Vashtor, a collaboration that led to many nightmarish projects over the millennia. Their alliance is firm but far from friendly. As a whole, the Iron Warriors honor the Chaos Gods as a pantheon, but they don't worship them as devout followers. to the Iron Warriors. Their loyalty is first to their Primarch above all others. And that is not even all of it. In M32, Perturabo invoked Nurgle to help him create a tech machine virus with which he crippled the system of Toil and its forge worlds. This event is only known as Perturabo's Plague and resulted in all life being scoured from these worlds by the virus, turning technology into living monsters that try to kill everything. But all of this leaves us with one question. In essence, Perturabo has been haunted by chaos and has seen it as a weakness. So what has made him change his viewpoint, going from being against chaos to being for chaos? Well, this goes right back to his relation to chaos. Perturabo was literally dying to the point that Nurgle had to send Kalak, a son of Horus now corrupted by Nurgle, to offer Perturabo something that could save him. Kalak had promised Perturabo a throne and a crown with which to stop himself from dying. Kalak told Perturabo that if he would fight Angron to bring him back, so Horus might march to Terra, he would die. Perturabo waited patiently for Kalak to finish and then obliterated him. The gunship he came in was torn to pieces by Perturabo without using a weapon. His spaceship was burned from the void. Yeah, Perturabo himself refused the idea that he was becoming weaker and would die. Yet he knew it was the truth. Perturabo was going to die if he did nothing. After choosing to quit the siege of Terra, Perturabo has a lot to think about. In his silence when the Emperor and Horus fought, Perturabo wanted to know what it was like to be one of his Iron Circle automata. He wanted to be a perfect weapon, something pure that is only a weapon and nothing else. He seeks to be the embodiment of absolute obliteration, and he knows the ways to achieve that. The data he has collected shows the irrefutable outcome. Yet there is a cost. He has to decide if it is worth to pay or not. And yes, it is at this moment that Perturabo makes it clear. He wants to get his hands on the daggers used by Lorgar and his sons. If not, try to become something similar to the Atame. He wants to study them and wonders where Lorgar even is. Perturabo is against the ritual gibberish of the word-bearers, but he knows he needs to understand sigils and symbology, perhaps even the ones favored by Malcador. Ultimately, Perturabo makes a rather frightening decision. Perturabo seeks to become the perfect weapon, an entity compressed in its own meaning, and in that path, there is a way he could defeat Horus. That is, if Horus survives. It is a rather cruel and ultimate decision to make, one that might not even work out. On the one hand, Perturabo needs to stop himself from dying, and on the other, he needs to ascend to demonhood. Perturabo is only left asking himself if he has the capability to bear the burden and price of demonhood. And right after the defeat of Horus, we find Perturabo again. His calculations have been wrong. There is much work to do in the state of the new galaxy. I highly recommend you watch my video on the Ashes of the Imperium novel for more details. But for now, I will focus on what Perturabo did in that novel. After the siege of Terra, Perturabo has decided to work against Lorgar and his legion, who are trying to reawaken the Chaos Gods. Perturabo needs to learn more, understand, and analyze before he can properly begin to master Chaos. Perturabo wanted to be a weapon, but he would also harness Chaos to be one as well. Yet while Perturabo has made his decision, some of his sons, like Warsmith Theocon, were mortified, as seen in Ashes of the Imperium, when Perturabo explains his plan to the Warsmith. We swapped one master for another, and in the end, he failed too. If I had remained on Terra, fate would have unfolded no differently. I learned something there. I learned it while I watched the planet burn. That we have not achieved it yet. The perfection that lies within our grasp. that we have been blades in the hands of others, when we could have been the masters of ourselves. Theocon listened uneasily. This was not the kind of talk he was used to. The Primarch had never said very much at all before, let alone use language like this. We bound the demons into our machines, we joined them with our bodies, and that made us stronger. But that is not enough. I see a path now, a path to greatness. No man's slave, no god's puppet. It will require time, it will require sacrifice. Lorgar's madness must be snuffed out, for the war cannot be rekindled for now. Let them rebuild, let them catch their breath. We will do the same, and to learn the things our brothers eagerly learned, while we held their guns for them and fought their wars. Every word of this was like poison, slowly dripping into his ears. Nothing was learned, nothing was understood. They were all still trapped in the same cycle, all of them, determined that this time they would marshal things alright. That this time they would prove cleverer and more astute than the dread knowledges that forever gnawed at the foundations of the universe. He wanted to scream, he wanted to turn against his father Dan, hammer his fist on that immense chest, howl at him that this was just the error Lorgar had made, that Horus had made, hells, that the Emperor had made. You cannot master it, you cannot use it, it will eat you even as you congratulate yourself for your cleverness, and it will spit you out even as you laugh at the folly of those you deemed less subtle than yourself. The only true defiance was to reject it, to run from it, to live by the physical alone, to be what they always claimed they wanted to be. But he knew at the very same time that he would never do that, even if it hadn't been so badly wounded, so ground down with fatigue and malnourishment and the effects of being in that place. He couldn't have done it. This was his gene liege, without whom he was nothing, because he, like all of his kind, in the final analysis, was abject. The physical power that made him close to immortal had become a terrible weakness. The suborned will, that inability to break away, the same discipline that had led him to conquer a galaxy with such astonishing, mind-bending speed. The mental shackles that now locked him back into the cycles of destruction that had no end. The machine turned, the cogs ticked over, the valves hissed, and he played his part exactly as the specifications demanded. So you will come with me. I have some new designs I wish to share with you. As you command, my lord, Theocon said, hating the words as they left his lips. Thus it shall be done. This story will continue to play out in the Scouring series. We will see more of both Perturabo and Lorgar, yet honestly, I want to see more of Theocon as well. Theocon disagrees with Perturabo, and after rereading the novel, I came to a very scary conclusion. Theocon rants to one of his brothers about Perturabo's decision. Theocon points out that people blame the madness of the Siege of Terra on the Chaos Gods, but in reality, the real chaos was inside each and every single one of them. When the Chaos Gods stopped whispering, no one lowered their weapons, no one stopped the carnage, and now, everyone from the most depraved cultists want them back, because they are all capable of recognizing that they themselves were the true monsters all along. It is a fascinating rant about Theocon, who was first introduced in this novel, and in a sense, he is right about how chaos is based in our emotions, not in the Chaos Gods. Sadly, there's not much else to explore about Perturabo's Ascension. The Eye of Terror Reign of Iron supplement is currently up for pre-order while writing this video. From the few glimpses I have gotten so far, my previous video about Perturabo besieging the Imperium is still correct. I know that in the supplement, we will also get to see the reaction from the Imperium as well, such as Captain Lysander requesting aid from his chapter, and the Phalanx answering both themselves and calling their successor chapters to war. When I get my hands on the supplement and fully read it, I will definitely do a follow-up video on this subject. I also just quickly want to put one common misconception to rest regarding Perturabo and the Iron Warriors. People often say that the Iron Warriors are not corrupted by chaos, and that they don't use chaos outside of their demon engines. Which, well, is wrong. Perturabo has perhaps one of the best character arcs in the Horus Heresy, going from bitter and petty to wanting to harness chaos as his ultimate weapon. Yet it should be noted that Perturabo has always been a demon Primarch. Well, from the moment he turned into a demon Primarch. His ascension is described in White Dwarf 256, released in 2001. Before that, Perturabo was called a demon prince in Realms of Chaos, Lost and the Damned, released during 40k's first edition. And the surprising part, this same lore from Lost and the Damned has been reprinted and updated every couple of years, and still features in some of the Chaos Space Marine codexes. So yes, Perturabo has always been written to be a demon Primarch, and that has always been the intention. Every edition backs this up. The Iron Warriors are not the word bearers, but they are still very much corrupted. They use chaos, and some of them still have mutations. Also, quick side note, for anybody arguing that the Realm of Chaos books are no longer canon, remember that they are still being produced and sold to this very day by GW. So to recreate the bitterness of today's subject, read the books. Side rant over. And that does it for today's video. Why do you think Perturabo ascended? What do you think he has been up to for the last 10,000 years? And now that he's fully active in the lore again, what do you think the Lord of Iron will be up to? Will he succeed in reaching and besieging Terra? Or do you think the Gilliman Lion combo will be too much for him to handle? Let me know your comments, concerns, suggestions, theories and ideas down in the comment section below. If you think I deserved it with this video, please leave a like and hit that subscribe button. It helps push this video into the algorithm and it would make me very happy. Once again, thank you to Starforge for sponsoring this video. Their sigil rings are really freaking cool. Thank you for watching and I'll be seeing you guys in the next one. Bye bye.